Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday evening for our weekly product webinar. Tonight we'll be talking about telomeres and catalase and aging and all kinds of interesting um, biology kind of things, ready to go back to cell biology class. So don't get scared. We're going to make it easy for you. So proud to have on our partner, Dr. Joshua Dunsky, who is a clinic director of a spine center called Dunsky Rehabilitation out in Boston. And he actually works with scoliosis and neuropathy patients, but really has advanced his practice to work with serious gut issues, which will be interesting. He'll talk a little bit about tonight. So has 5 kids and a beautiful wife and lives out there in Boston with a thriving practice. And we've been working together for 4 years, and so proud to have you on tonight. I know you're very excited because he is going to be on his way to Amsterdam soon to actually lecture on what he's going to be talking to us about tonight. So we're so excited for you, and I will hand it over to you, Dr. Dunsky. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Jojo. I appreciate it, and I'm super excited to be here as always. I am looking forward to sharing with you this science that has to do with every single one of us. It has to do with the aging process. It has to do with our health, um, and um, and the choices that we do and we don't have. So we're going to jump right into this, and we're going to start out by talking about these guys right here. Okay, I'm showing you a picture of lobsters because according to researchers, lobsters have no detectable aging process. Researchers will say that you can't detect the age of a lobster simply by its appearance alone. We look over to these people over here, I shouldn't say people, these animals over here, and we have to note that certain species live for an extended period of time. Why does the tortoise live over 200 or can live over 280 years? Certain species of mussels can live over 400 years. So what's going on inside of them that's different from us, that's different from the cat or the dog? In order to understand this and to relate this back to the lobsters, and especially to ourselves, we have to look deeper inside the body. So for a long time now, we've been taught that every single cell in our body has a purpose, it ages, and then it dies. Has a purpose, it ages, and it dies. And that is true for every single cell in our body, except for one cell. New research and new science has shown us that there's actually one cell in our body that is completely immortal. It does not age. And these cells are inside our reproductive system. This is why we can have children. This is why your generation can go on to the next and the next. It has everything to do with these specialized cells that are inside the sperm and the eggs. So let's look a little deeper to get more of an understanding to this, and we're going to relate it to telomeres and our health, as Jojo brought up. So if we look inside the body, each and every one of us is made up of over 100 trillion different cells. They allow our body to exist, to function. They allow you to live. And inside every one of those cells, we have this round circle called the nucleus. So if we look inside the nucleus, you're going to see these blue X's are what we know, or what is known as chromosomes. Chromosomes house our DNA. So if you can see my little cursor here, inside the chromosome, we have the double helix. This is our genetic blueprint. This is the same type of information which allows a builder to build a house. It allows our body to have life. It allows us to express life in every way imaginable. It tells us what color hair we're going to have, how tall we're going to be. Every trait that you can think of has to do with our DNA. And at the very tips of our chromosomes, excuse me, seen here in yellow, these are called telomeres. Telomeres, you can equate them to the plastic tips of our shoestrings. Okay, they protect the shoestrings from fraying. And just to give you an idea, from tip to tip of the chromosome, okay, it's measured in bases. From tip to tip, the chromosome is 100 million bases long. The telomere itself is 15,000 bases long in the reproductive system, so in utero. Okay, and this is very important, so I need to focus on this for a second so you really understand. When the baby is born, that telomere has reduced down to 10,000 bases. Okay, so in the reproductive system, okay, when the egg became fertile, the telomere is 15,000 bases long. When the baby's born, that telomere has shrunk down to 10,000 bases long. And when our life is over, literally when we die, it's called cell senescence, the telomere reaches 5,000 bases long. So what that means is from birth to death, we have a 5,000 base time span. Okay, that's our lifespan. We don't want short telomeres. What I want you to understand from this segment is we want longer telomeres. Because when those telomeres get close to 5,000 bases, just like the end of a shoestring, that shoestring can fray. And that's what happens to our DNA. So if we look at the cell cycle here, picture this as a clock. We have 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. If this is a liver cell or a kidney cell, the cell has its function. It goes around the life of the cell clock here. The cell has this internal intelligence. It knows it's going to die, so it replicates its DNA, and the old cell goes off. It's called cell mitosis or cell division. The old cell goes off into cellular waste, and the new cell carries on the life of that liver or kidney or eye or nerve, depends on what cell it is. But the idea here is every time our cells duplicate, replicate, our telomeres are slightly shorter, slightly shorter, slightly shorter, just like the tip of the shoestring getting a little bit shorter, a little bit shorter. Okay? This is what we know of today as the aging process. So the Russians discovered the telomeres back in the 50s, and scientists have discovered within the past 25 years that everything related to the aging process. So right now, think of anything you can related to the aging process, and this has to do with our telomeres getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Gray hair, loss of memory, poor eyesight, skeletal atrophy, weight gain, degenerative issues. The aging process is because our telomeres are getting shorter. So when you look at some 40-year-old people out there, okay, they're 40-year-old, but they're 40 years old, but they look like they're 25 or 30. And some 40-year-olds look like they're 60. Why is that? Well, we know now definitively some of that process, there's nothing we can do about that. Okay, that's just the way it is. But a lot of that, it has to do with the choices that we've made. So the natural process of telomere shortening is called basal cell shortening. And up until today, there's nothing we can do about this. But there's something called accelerated shortening, and that's what we do have control over. In 2011, Popular Science, one of the most prestigious scientific magazines out there, Popular Science named Dr. William Andrews the man that would stop time in 2011 for his discovery of human telomerase. I'll tell you what the big deal is about telomerase in a second, but I just want to highlight this gentleman for a second because he is leading the world right now, the world in the aging process and disease itself. So he discovered human telomerase in 1994, and for this discovery, he placed second. He actually placed first in the United States Inventor of the Year award. It just happened to be the same year that the HIV protease came out, and they issued him a second place, which they've never done before. But that's because how important his discovery was. All right, he has the only lab in the entire world that solely studies the aging process. There is no one that is more seasoned on aging. Okay, his mission is to stop aging. Okay, and I believe he's going to get there. So let's talk about human telomerase. What's the big deal about that? Well, human telomerase is the reason that when a 30-year-old woman with 30-year-old skin and 30-year-old hair has a baby, that baby has newborn baby hair and newborn baby skin, newborn baby eyes. If you think about it, if the DNA replicates identically, okay, which it does, then it would only make sense that her 30-year-old skin, the baby's skin would be 30-year-old skin. But of course, that's silly to think about. Why is that? Because there's no shortening, there's no telomere shortening in utero. Why? Because of telomerase. This is all going to come back full circle, so you'll get this in a second. Telomerase prevents telomere shortening or aging in the reproductive system. That's why these cells are immortal. Okay? So as the cell goes around the cell clock again, our telomeres get shorter at the tips of the chromosomes. But in the lobsters, right, that researchers found out that there's no detectable aging process. I'm going to show you what happens in these lobsters. Okay, this, by the way, I have to interject this. The science that I'm talking about today is what the entire world is looking at right now. I had the privilege and honor of presenting this science at the World Anti-Aging Preventive Medicine Conference in London in 2013. This is Nobel Prize winning research, and this happened to be the team that got that Nobel Prize in 2009. Okay, the entire world is looking at this because it's not just about aging. Yes, we know now that our hearing and our eyesight and skin and gray hair, all of those things come from telomeres getting shorter. But guess what? It also leads to disease. And a few years ago, there were just a few papers written and published on the link between telomere shortening and disease, and now of thousands of articles and publications on this. It's more than just aging. It has to do with every single one of us in terms of our health. There's no better example, and it's kind of oxymoronic because it's a beautiful example of the power of telomeres, okay, is this example right here. It's children that are born with what's called progeria. It is a horrible, horrible terminal disease, and up until today, there's still no cure for it. These children are born with short telomeres. It gives you the powerful indication of what telomeres really do. These children suffer from the same age-related illnesses as the elderly population do. It's horrible. Their life expectancy is not long at all. You're talking 10 to 12 years, give or take. Okay? Do you know what these children die of? They die of congestive heart failure, strokes, heart attacks at age 10, 11, 12 years old. It is horrible. But preventing telomere shortening, it's not just about the aging, it's about these children right here. It's about almost every disease that we know of. We all suffer from telomere shortening, but just some more rapidly and some less. Why is that? Before we talk about that, let's get into this a little bit. Cardiovascular disease linked to short telomeres. Cancer. We all get cancer. And let me back up. I'm not saying there's no other reason for cardiovascular disease. What I'm saying is some of those external factors that put us in a higher susceptibility for cardiovascular disease shorten telomeres and decrease the structure of the cells and weaken our immunity. Cancer. We all get cancer cells 9 times a day, 10 times a day, 11 times a day. If your immune system is working properly, you fight off and your immune system will destroy those cancer cells. But what happens if your cancer cells cannot be destroyed by your immune system? What happens when your immune system is not that strong? Those cancer cells multiply, divide, and they overtake. And that's where neoplasms and cancer happens. And that becomes apparent with symptomology and whatnot. Degenerative disc disease, Alzheimer's, okay, all of these things. In fact, Dr. William Andrews doesn't know one disease that's not directly related or indirectly related to telomere shortening. AIDS patients, another classic example. Why do AIDS patients die? AIDS patients die because inside their immune system, one of the fundamental cells that keeps us alive is our T cells, a major, powerful part of our immune system. And now when the telomeres get down to 5,000 bases long, those T cells can't fight off the common bacteria that you and I would sniffle at, or virus that you and I would sniffle at, and these patients succumb and die. Because the telomeres in their T cells shrunk or reduced down to 5,000 bases. That's when I told you our life is over. Another beautiful example of the power of the telomere. In 2010, the Journal of American Medical Association, they knew this. They said short telomeres increases the risk of cancer 4 to 5 times. 4 to 5 times. So bad things really do happen when our telomeres shorten. But do you think, okay, just think to yourselves, I know there's a lot of people on this webinar right now. Do you think it's possible that you have some control over this telomere shortening? Okay, well, let me show you up here on this slide right here. These are categories, and behind these categories are published studies, okay, that prove that these categories affect the length of telomeres. So I'm not going to show you the boring graphs and the science. For any of you that want this, these are all published studies, and I can get them to you, Okay, we have this at the back of our presentation. So when we speak to healthcare providers or researchers, we show the boring graphs and whatnot. But for time purposes, let me tell you that exercise, antioxidants, vitamin D3, omega-3 fatty acids have been proven in the older population to help keep those telomeres longer. The older population that did not do exercise, they did not consume D3 or omega-3s, they had shorter telomeres. Smoking, okay, what do you think is going to happen? The older population that smoked had rapidly declined or accelerated shortening of their telomeres. Having a healthy weight, direct correlation to telomeres. Stress, and they measured the telomere lengths of the caregivers to Alzheimer's patients, not Alzheimer's patients themselves, but the caregivers. They also measured the telomeres of older people who were abused as children. And categorically, they all had shorter telomeres than the control group that didn't have that stress. Depression, they studied 4 major mood disorders, Journal of Psychology. All of them had shorter telomeres. And do you know it's proven that pessimism, negative people, we all know negative people out there, negative people have clinically shorter telomeres, okay? So it's not just a mental or psychological thing, it's a physiological thing too. Negativity causes you to age rapidly and thus hit that wall sooner than later. So be happy. Time Magazine, they published a study, Time Magazine and the American Journal of Public Health found that a daily soda habit can age your immune system by almost 2 years by affecting the telomeres. Big time. Now let me ask you to think about this. Do you think it's possible to reverse the aging process? Possible. So when my dad was born, or a few years after that, Buck Rogers was a cartoon. Buck Rogers was a cartoon of a man in a spaceship that flew up in space and landed on the moon sometime, or at one time. And they thought, wow, that's a great story, that's a cartoon, that's not reality. And we know with the progression of modern science that we are making discoveries every single day. So let me today, for all of you on here that haven't seen this before. I showed you a picture of these lobsters for a reason. According to researchers, lobsters have no detectable aging process. Well, guess what else they found? Lobsters express telomerase in every cell throughout life. Humans have the telomerase gene in all of their cells. We do. But at birth, there's a switch that turns telomerase off, and thus we actually start aging right when we're born. Lobsters keep expressing telomerase in every cell through life. So researchers saw this and they said, wow, there's no aging process. Maybe it has something to do with the constant expression of telomerase. Guess what else they found? Lobsters don't get cancer. It's almost impossible to find neoplasms or cancer in lobsters. When researchers saw this correlation, that's when this changed. That's when the game just changed. Everybody got on board. The nutraceutical industry, the supplement industry, the pharmaceutical industry, all of these disease or organizations that are out there started looking at telomeres and the links that they have with our health, and they're all trying to get a cure. The pharmaceutical industry is trying to find a drug. The nutraceutical industry is trying to come up with a healthy supplement to help ward this off. Everybody was going nuts because they knew there was a link now. So in walks this gentleman, Dr. Ronald Del Pino. Dr. Del Pino, used to be on staff at Harvard Medical School, used to be on staff at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and now runs one of the largest teaching cancer hospitals in the world at MD Anderson in Texas. He did a study because he said, hold on everybody, y'all are getting excited about this telomerase inducers and elongating telomeres, but you could actually cause the proliferation of cancer. You may be causing cancer to happen if you do this. So he did a study to show that this could happen. So they took these old mice, they engineered these old mice, and they were able to turn on the telomerase gene and lengthen their telomeres, and they wanted to watch what would happen. So for a gentleman that is world-renowned in cancer research, okay, You have to be able to back up a claim. You can't just say, oh yeah, we reverse the aging process. You've got to be able to show it with good clinical data. And that's exactly what they did. So for the first time, okay, he said himself, there was a remarkable reversal of the aging process. Let me have you watch something here real quick.
Tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice, but we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding, but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you can see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size. As for humans, while it is just one...
Stop this for a second here. All right, so let's talk about this. If I can advance this slide here. So this is what happened, okay? Powerful. Not only did these mice not get sick, they returned to their original morphology. These cells got younger. And by the way, there was another study that was a piggyback on this one done out in Madrid, Spain by a woman named Dr. Maria Blasco, world-renowned cancer researcher as well, did another study to show that, you know, to find out could this cause cancer. The same thing happened. In fact, some of her statistics were even better than this. It not only didn't cause cancer, their immune system was stronger. It was able to fight off sickness and disease. Their telomere lengths increased by 33%. These old dementia-like mice were able, that couldn't get out of the maze, were getting out of the maze. I mean, they were changing on every level. We've never seen this before. This is a huge breakthrough in science. Okay, so all these companies, the pharmaceutical industry, the nutraceutical industry, the health and wellness industry, they're all trying to come up with ways to induce telomerase to turn on that button. Okay, and this is where it gets good. I already introduced you to Dr. William Andrews, the man that discovered human telomerase. Okay, this is where science beats wellness. He bumps into this gentleman, was introduced to this gentleman by a man named Peter Greenlaw. John Anderson is one of those names that you all know, you just don't know you know. He is a master formulator, world-renowned master herbalist. He's been formulating for over 3 decades some of the most incredible supplements, nutraceuticals on the market. Okay, he's formulated for over 600 companies, 27 different countries. He's formulated over 2,500 different products out there. In fact, this gentleman was given a United States Congressional Award for the work that he does, okay? And in 2002, he was already in retirement. He didn't need to come out of retirement. He came out of retirement to partner with 2 other partners to create one of the largest health and wellness companies in the world, but to give people a no-compromise solution. No compromise means no garbage, nothing that's not bioavailable in their nutraceuticals, and nothing that's inferior. And it's not too often that you can find a company that goes to the lengths that they go to provide that. So these 2 gentlemen eventually partnered up, and their goal was to use this Nobel Prize winning research on telomeres to create the ultimate nutritional system for promoting health. So Dr. Andrews, he's the scientist. He's in the lab. He's formulating and trying to come up with anything that can induce telomerase to lengthen telomeres. So he studied over 304,000 compounds, and these red lines indicate hits, meaning they were able to induce telomerase and lengthen telomeres. This, by the way, was done in vitro, which means in a dish in human skin cells, but not in live people yet. This is just in a dish with human skin cells. And they did it. They proved it was possible. These red lines indicate that they were able to induce telomerase and lengthen. Those compounds were far too toxic for anybody to be able to consume. But his first mission was to prove that they could do it. And so when John Anderson and him got together, John said, my niche is nature. I know botanicals, I know formulations, and I'm going to create a product that can do this without any harmful chemicals. In fact, they're all going to be from nature. And his peers in the world basically said there's no way he's going to be able to do it. He's brilliant, but there's no way he can do it. So he would formulate and send his samples over to Dr. Bill, and he'd test it. John would formulate, send them to Dr. Bill, and he'd test it. Well, let me tell you something. Within 100 attempts, John formulated a compound, synergistically blended botanicals and other ingredients, 30 100% natural compounds that got a hit. Okay? His first one got 3 hits. Now, they weren't as strong as Dr. Bill's over here, but it doesn't matter. See, it starts somewhere. It starts in the lab. It starts in a mouse. It goes to chemicals. Now they're doing it from nature. And then he got a few more hits. And then recently, I don't even know, there's 4th generation now, this supplement that I'm going to talk to you about, that is all natural compounds from Mother Nature. However, the patent and the ability to be blended and work synergistically together allows this to be so powerful. In fact, I'm going to show you a study that was done in live humans in a second here. But let me just tell you what this is. This is called Isogenesis Product B. I was introduced to this 4 years ago. It is now mandatory. It used to be highly recommended in my neuropathy program, in my spinal degenerative program, and in my gut program. 2 years ago, I made it mandatory. I will not treat anybody that's not on this science. A, we can prove it working. Okay? Sustainability. We track our patients. You need to put the right fuel inside your cells for those cells to heal properly. You can have the best care anywhere, but if the fuel is not there, it's not going to happen. Now let me just be very clear here. Isogenics nor isogenesis is a drug. This is not a drug. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any illness or disease. This is for educational purposes only, and these statements have not been approved by the FDA. The FDA does not promote any nutritional product. They get involved if someone gets injured or there are false claims being made. So what I can tell you is Product B Isogenesis is a natural supplement. It is youthful telomere support. It is for youthful aging to support our telomeres. That's what we're allowed to tell you, okay? But something that I want to show you next is extremely powerful because we were able to, or Isogenics was able to have a double-blind placebo-controlled study done on catalase. So catalase is found in all of our cells, okay? So if you Google almost any disease out there, you're going to see an enzyme called catalase, a diminishment in catalase. You don't want low levels of catalase in your cells. So they did at University of Arizona Health Sciences, they did a double-blind placebo-controlled study, which means the researcher nor the subject knew who was getting the placebo or product B. Now, researchers have said that if you can increase catalase in cells, those people would be much healthier than the majority of the population. Okay? I tell people to think of catalase as like a force field. It protects the cells from cell damage. So their numbers, their data, the outcome of this research was so astounding that they had to double and triple check the data. They were able, or they found that in live, so in vivo means in live people, in vitro is in the dish, in live people, they showed a 30% increase in catalase production. And I equate it to this. You can't run an Indy car on 87 octane. You need Indy car fuel. You need rocket fuel in a rocket ship, okay? If we expect our cells to reproduce, divide, and become whole again, and heal, and you don't put the right fuel in our bodies, the right nutrition in our body, those cells are always going to form or heal inferior. Okay? If they keep reproducing and healing inferior, this is the aging process in an accelerated form. Here's one of our partners, Dr. Wateen, board certified in internal medicine. Okay? He went on the program too. He felt a difference in and of himself, noticed his own health change. All of his patients now go on Product B. The same with my patients as well. It is powerful, and it is mandatory for a reason. In my clinic, I'm not saying it has to be for those providers that are on here, but that's the power that we see. I want to call your attention to this, and then we're going to wrap things up. Product B was nominated for the People's Choice Stevie Award, and I think this is very powerful. The Stevie Award is nominated by its peers. The industry nominated this award. There was 3 other products in that award. Okay, those 3 other products were actually prescription drugs. Okay, this was the only natural supplement in that category that won the award, that was nominated for the award. How powerful is that? The other 3 were drugs. This is the most premier nutraceutical on the market, in my opinion, and this is why we use the science in our clinic. So I appreciate all of your attention here. I love this stuff. In fact, Lisa and I are flying over to Amsterdam, like Jojo said, to present the science at the Traditional Medicine Conference in a few months. The world is looking at telomeres. As I'm concerned, I haven't seen any other product out there that's in second place. Jojo, if you want to take a few questions, I have a few minutes and I do have to jump off, but I hope everybody enjoyed that tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So appreciate all of that. And I know, Deanna, you have your hand up. If you have a question, can you type into the question box on the screen and I'll be able to see it on my side? And if anybody else has a question, please just type it into the question box and it'll come up so I can see it. Or if you want to just send out a thank you or some kudos or high five Dr. Densky or whatever you'd like to do. Well, I think you did a great job. Nobody's asking questions, so you covered it all.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me on here, Jojo. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you for taking your time with us tonight, and we appreciate you so much. And we are next week. I think we're going to be talking about. I think we talked about maybe talking about our whey protein and why it's different, and really getting into the science behind that, and also talking about cellular detoxification and how that's different. So
sure.
Some stuff together around that, and so we plan on having some different things next week. And remember that for anybody that's on the Rock Your Health page, you guys, if you go into the files, there's all of the webinars that we've done up to this point are all there and recorded, so you can just click on them and go back and rewatch. So it's awesome. So thank you guys so much for being on tonight. We appreciate your time. Dr. Densky, we appreciate your time. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks so much.
You as well, Jojo. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.